What's up? How you doing? Here we are, Tuesday, and a little bit warm right now. Just got back from the railroad tracks. Had a fun time out there, and tonight we're eating fish, tilapia fried, and asparagus. What else? Corn, and I got some nice jalapeno peppers. Good quality. So I got this Gmrs radio that I really like listening to at night. Get a lot of crosstalk, and the good thing about a Gmrs radio is that you can catch far distances, especially with a repeater. CB, which was my thing in the old days, kind of like 3 to 5 miles tops. Anything beyond that you're not going to pick up unless you have a big antenna up on your roof. So when I was a kid, my uncle, Christmas time, he bought me a walkie-talkie set, which I love walkie-talkies, you know. So at nighttime I couldn't sleep. I was all excited. I had this walkie-talkie, and I put it on position, and I could hear tons of people talking. I don't know how it is these days because I haven't been on a walkie-talkie in years, but when I was a kid and I had my walkie-talkies, I could hear people from all over. Lots of people. It was a 40-station walkie-talkie, and I could hear talk from all over the place. I mean, they were within a few miles of me, but it was busy. And then I had Morse code on the bottom of mine, and I hit the buttons. So then later on, my father was looking for a vehicle, a station wagon. He had a station wagon, but he needed another one. So somebody gave him a call, and they said, hey, there's an old lady across the street, and she's got her station wagon up for sale. You might want to come check it out. She barely drives it. So my father said sure. So we ended up going to this guy's house, and across the street underneath a bunch of pine trees was a Ford Country Squire. Go ahead with your motorcycle. Anyway, it was a Ford Country Squire station wagon, you know, the kind with the wood panel on the side, and it was blue on the rest of it. And I wasn't really a Ford station wagon guy back then. I was more of a Chevy Impala station wagon. But something changed my mind. I looked inside, and the first thing I noticed was a CB, a nice CB Cobra. And it had an antenna up top, 3-footer. And I said, wow, I want that station wagon, because I always wanted to have a CB, you know, like the old days, cooter. So it was in really good condition. It had low mileage. My father ended up buying it. That night he reversed it into our driveway and put it all the way in the back, and I sat in the car for hours talking on the CB, because you don't need a license to talk on a CB. You need a license to talk on a GMRS unless it's an emergency. Then they allow you to talk on it without a license. But it's not no test, nothing like that. It's not like a ham radio. Ham radio, you have to go and get a test. But anyway, so I remember that night, the first night, I was talking to everybody on that thing. Everybody had a handle. Everybody had a special name. So we ended up going down to Washington, D.C. that year, and I was talking to it all throughout the way down. And in those days, was it Breaker 19? Breaker 19 was an emergency station, but everybody knew about 19, and I would get on 19 and talk. I didn't know, you know, that you couldn't do that unless it was an emergency. So I would get on there and talk, and everywhere else nobody said anything to me except when I would go down the Cape. You'd go down the Cape, and there was a lady who, I guess she's in her house, she constantly was on that station listening, which was a good thing. And I would get up there, I would say, breaker 19, breaker 19, and then she would get on, she would say, please state your emergency. And I'd say, I don't have an emergency. She goes, well, then you can't be on this radio frequency. She goes, this radio frequency is only for emergencies. And when she told me that, then I go, oh, okay. And then about a month went by, and I said, I'm going to test it again. So I was up there, I was breaker 19, and immediately she's like, this is 19, go ahead, what's your emergency? And I go, wow. But it's the only place. So obviously she was a lady who had this as a hobby, because you don't get paid for that. And the second somebody would be on 19, she would respond, which is, like I said, a good thing. In the old days, if you had a CB and you got injured, you'd get on there and say 19, and she would get on. You'd say, "Can you get the police for me?" or "Get an ambulance," and she would get an ambulance. Nowadays, with cell phones, CBs are not that popular. You know, I think even truck drivers just call up the other truck driver. They use a cell phone. But in the old days, the CB was all that you had. Now you have a GMRS, you have, you know, a cell phone, and you can get a CB app, which you can make your cell phone into a CB if you want to. But yeah, I love the whole thing about walkie-talkies when I was a kid. And yeah, I like to talk to my friend. Well, I had a friend, you know, mentioned. So his father was big into CBs. CBs were his life. He had a really big one, and he had it in his house. He had an attic, and up on top of the roof he had a big antenna. So I didn't know that, but my friend, he said to me, I said, I have walkie-talkies. And he said, oh, he goes, I have a CB. I go, how do you have a CB in your house? I go, doesn't that only belong in a car? And he goes, my father hooked it up. And I was thinking, hey, come over to my house and hook it up for me. I want to get a CB. So he said, tonight at around 7 p.m., get on your walkie-talkie and I'll talk to you. And he gave me the channel. Helicopter, I bet you it's LAPD. LAPD. So anyway, that night I got on there and I was in my room and I was saying breaker 23 break, and I heard him. He was like, hey, and I go, I picked him up, but he sounded like he was on the moon. In reality, he was about 10 blocks from my house, about a mile away, and I could barely hear him. So I was thinking, you know, all those people that I can hear loud and clear at night, they must be, you know, within a half a block away from me, a couple of blocks maybe. But I couldn't hear him at all. Like, I could barely make it out. So next day I saw him in school, and he goes, I could hear you. I go, I could hear you too, but not that great. And then another time, we were in a cottage, and there was a guy next door who was into CBs, and he wired this elaborate system at his house, and he put a tall antenna on the other side, and he was communicating with people. I don't know if he was a ham radio operator, which is even better, because that you can talk to the world. Be sitting here now, and I can talk to somebody in Antarctica. Also, you can hear the space station if you have the frequency. So anyway, I'm gonna start cooking the fish now, and I'll probably be on a little bit, but big fan of the CB, the GMRS, ham radio, all that stuff. I'm a big fan of SETI too, but SETI, they hear crickets. They don't get anything. Where are the aliens? Where's that life out there? There's got to be something in a universe this big, and we're the only ones. That is impossible to believe. Impossible. This place has got to be loaded with intelligent life. Forget about you know, microbial life like amoebas and things. I'm pretty sure it's full of that too, but there's got to be a huge amount of intelligent life. Huge amount. We cannot be the only ones. You know, the visible universe is about 93 billion light years across. That's massive. And when they tell you that there's more stars out there in the universe, and there are grains of sand on this planet, you know that there's got to be something out there. But no contact yet. I'm not one of those people that believe that these things have visited us. I don't see any evidence for that. Anything you look at has an explanation, or it's a flat-out lie. That's the explanation, that they made it up. But I've never seen anything that was believable. Even the recent stuff with the Navy pilots, even that, I don't know, there's an explanation for that. I've already seen possible explanations, and I tend to believe that that's really what it is, rather than it's intelligent life visiting us. And if they are visiting us, that's it. They just come by, fly around a little bit, and then take off. They don't make contact. Haven't they seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they actually stop at the end and, you know, the little babies come off the ship and greet us? Believe me when I tell you that if anything like that came by and they opened up their hatch, I would go in there.